It might come as a surprise to many, but beneath the vast, serene landscapes of Canada lies a geological treasure trove of staggering proportions. While the world often thinks of Canada for its timber, its oil, or its famously polite population, the real story of its emerging global power is written in the rocks. Canada is home to nearly half of the world's publicly listed mining and mineral exploration companies. This isn't just a quaint fact for a trivia night, it's a statistic that represents immense and until recently somewhat latent economic and geopolitical power. The ground beneath Canadians' feet holds a diverse portfolio of the very elements that will build the 21st century, making the nation an indispensable player in the future of technology, energy, and advanced manufacturing. This incredible mineral wealth extends far beyond the gold and diamonds that traditionally capture the public imagination. As the global political climate grew more turbulent, Canada found itself in the crosshairs of an aggressive new trade philosophy emanating from Washington. Instead of engaging in a tit-for-tat tariff war that could cripple both economies, Ottawa looked inward and downward to the very ground it stood on. The strategy that emerged was subtle yet powerful. Canada recognized that while the United States wielded the blunt instrument of tariffs, it possessed a far more sophisticated and essential tool: its vast reserves of critical minerals. The Canadian government began to consciously leverage its mineral wealth not as a threat, but as an indispensable offering. The message was clear, if unspoken. You can build walls and impose tariffs, but you cannot build the future without our resources. The conversation shifted from disputes over steel and aluminum to the collaborative need for lithium, cobalt, nickel, and rare earth elements. By positioning itself as the solution to America's own supply chain vulnerabilities, particularly its heavy reliance on sourcing minerals from China and other geopolitical rivals, Canada was subtly rewriting the terms of the negotiation. The challenge from the White House was direct and unambiguous. President Trump, operating on his America First doctrine, viewed international trade agreements as a series of bad deals for the United States. He took particular aim at NAFTA, the trade pact between the United States, Canada, and Mexico, labeling it the worst trade deal ever made. In 2018, the Trump administration imposed steep tariffs of 25% on steel and 10% on aluminum imported from Canada, citing dubious national security concerns. This move sent shockwaves through the deeply integrated North American economies. The intent was clear: to inflict enough economic pain on Canada to compel its government to concede on key United States demands. The White House gambled that Canada, with an economy 1/10 the size of America's, would have no choice but to buckle under the pressure. The tariffs were designed to hurt Canadian producers, disrupt supply chains, and create political pressure on Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's government. Faced with the full force of American economic pressure, Canada's response was a masterclass in strategic patience and foresight. Instead of being drawn into an escalating and mutually destructive tariff war, the Canadian government initiated a quiet but formidable counter-offensive. The strategy was not to punch back, but to build up. Ottawa turned its attention inward, focusing on a sector where it held a distinct and growing global advantage: its vast mineral resources. The government recognized that the path to long-term leverage was not through retaliation, but through becoming an even more essential partner that the United States and the world could not afford to alienate. A key pillar of this new strategy was a concerted effort to streamline and accelerate the development of its mining sector. Historically, new mining projects in Canada could be bogged down for years, even decades, in complex regulatory and environmental review processes. The goal was to break the global stranglehold, primarily held by China, on these crucial midstream activities. By funding new refineries and battery manufacturing plants, Canada was ensuring that the value derived from its resources would be captured at home. It unveiled a national critical minerals strategy, complete with a list of 31 minerals deemed essential for the country's economic future and that of its allies. To truly understand the genius of Canada's strategy, one must appreciate the monumental importance of the minerals at its core. These are not just obscure elements on the periodic table. They are the fundamental building blocks of the 21st century global economy. Critical minerals like lithium, cobalt, graphite, and nickel are the lifeblood of the green energy revolution. Lithium is the essential, lightweight component in the rechargeable batteries that power every electric vehicle. As nations set ambitious targets to phase out gasoline-powered cars, the demand for lithium is projected to skyrocket. Control over a reliable, ethically sourced supply of lithium is control over the future of transportation. The significance of these materials extends far beyond electric cars. Cobalt, another key battery component, is crucial for improving the stability and lifespan of lithium-ion batteries used in everything from smartphones and laptops to large-scale energy storage systems that support renewable power grids. A group of 17 elements known as rare earths are vital for a vast array of high-tech applications. They are used in the powerful magnets that drive the motors of wind turbines and electric vehicles, as well as in fiber optic cables, medical imaging devices like MRIs, and sophisticated defense systems. For decades, the world has been almost entirely dependent on China for the mining and processing of these elements, creating a significant strategic vulnerability for Western nations. The turning point in this quiet geopolitical chess match came not with a dramatic confrontation, but through a series of strategic agreements and domestic investments that solidified Canada's leverage. More importantly, Canada began to actively court and sign supply deals with global partners beyond the United States. European and Asian automakers eager to secure their own battery supply chains and reduce their dependence on China looked to Canada as an ideal partner. Major international companies announced multi-billion-dollar investments in new Canadian battery manufacturing plants, mineral processing facilities, and EV assembly lines. In a moment of strategic alignment that transcended the political noise, the two countries signed a joint action plan on critical minerals collaboration. This agreement committed both nations to working together to secure supply chains for the minerals needed for defense, aerospace, and communications technology. Every new mine that received its permits, every new battery plant that broke ground, and every new international supply agreement signed by a Canadian company added another weight to Canada's side of the scale. The conversation was no longer about Canada's dependence on the United States market, but about America's dependence on Canada's unique geological and industrial assets. While Canada was methodically executing its long-term mineral strategy, the immediate effects of President Trump's tariffs were beginning to be felt on both sides of the border, and they were not unfolding as the White House had planned. For American businesses that relied on Canadian steel and aluminum, the tariffs were not a protective shield, but a direct tax on their essential inputs. The plan backfired most spectacularly in the deeply integrated North American auto industry. Automakers in states like Michigan and Ohio had built their entire production models around a seamless cross-border flow of parts and materials. Canada's carefully targeted retaliatory tariffs on specific United States goods created pain in key sectors of the American economy. American farmers who produced pork, whiskey distillers in Kentucky, and ketchup manufacturers saw their access to the large Canadian market restricted. This created domestic political pressure on the Trump administration from constituencies that were feeling the direct economic consequences of the trade dispute. The disruption highlighted the folly of trying to disentangle two of the world's most interconnected economies with a blunt policy instrument. In the final analysis, the trade standoff between the United States and Canada became a textbook case of how a calm, long-term strategy can triumph over short-term, high-pressure tactics. The Canadian government correctly identified that the global economy was at an inflection point, with the transition to clean energy and advanced technology creating an insatiable demand for specific raw materials. It sent a signal to other middle-power nations that there are alternative ways to counter the economic pressure of larger countries. Instead of simply capitulating or retaliating, nations can build leverage by identifying and developing their own unique strategic assets. As we stand here today, on August 11, 2025, Canada's position as a global mineral powerhouse is more secure than ever. One of the most significant opportunities lies in setting the global standard for responsible mining. Canada, with its strong environmental laws and commitment to Indigenous consultation, can position itself as the world's leading supplier of ethical minerals. The choices Canada makes now will define its role in the world for the 21st century. Its quiet, strategic victory in the tariff wars was just the beginning. The world is watching to see what the Northern Fulcrum will do next.